We are back, baby! I love Strixhaven. Strixhaven is on par my favorite set with the, what's the name? Ikoria. I love Ikoria too. Both sets I absolutely love. So I'm going to be enjoying the next, 6 weeks? Because I'm going to go over each of the decks and then the set itself. I'm pretty sure there's 5 decks that they've done, one for each school, college thing. So yeah, let's find out. I actually think I'm so excited for this set. There's one big complaint, but I'll do that in the set review. So sit down, relax, and let's go over the first commander deck when it comes to Strixhaven. So today we're going to be talking about Silverquill Influence. And I'm gonna say right off the bat, this seems to be one of those decks that sound fancy, but don't really do much. So in today's video, we're going to find out is this deck worth it, or is it just fancy silver cardboard in a trench coat? If you don't know by now, I go over the commander, the sub-commander, each of the card types, showing off the best cards or the rares upwards of the deck, and then give a final thought and opinion and a ranking on is this deck worth it. Now, if you are a Silverquill lover, there is going to be bias with you when it comes to this, or with me, and probably you'll want it higher, but I will give it the best score I can possibly think of when it comes to what the cards do and the art behind them and the playability of the deck as a whole. I am so excited for Strixhaven. I love this set. There is a few things that I do have a problem with, but again, I'll be talking about that later on in the video and in other videos. But when it comes to Silverquill seems to be, I'm more of a, I just call them by the actual colours, the Izzet players. I am a Izzet fan, and I think I'm going to leave the Izzet deck to last because I know I'm going to be biased on this one. But when it comes to these, I'm not the biggest fan of their college or section of the college, whatever you like to call it. To me, these seem to be the rich, fancy people that think they're better than everyone else. Kind of like if Andrew Tate started a magic college. But let's get on to the video itself, starting off with the commander of the deck. Killian Deceive Mentor. For 1 generic white and a black, you get a legendary creature, human warlock that is a mythic. Whenever an enchantment you control enters, tap up to 1 target creature and goad it. Whenever 1 or more creatures that are enchanted by an aura you control attack, draw a card, and he is a 2/3. Straight off the bat, this seems to be a very aura enchantment heavy deck. The one thing I do like is I love low cost commanders. I usually try not to go anything from 5 under, and anything over has to be quite good / broken, or a way to lower their cost. Galter is prime for that. I usually like commanders that have 1 or 2 different ways to play. This seems to be you play creatures, play a bunch of auras, tap down and goad a bunch of their creatures, and attack the ones that aren't really able to block. So rather they're big blockers or they're flyers, to draw more cards to then play more enchantments. It seems to be that kind of little loop thing there, and I can't really see a different way to play this, working straight off the commander. Now obviously you could just throw anything in, that doesn't count. But I also do love a commander that helps you draw a card, and for 3 mana I do think this is good. But to be honest, I also do think this is what I call an enchantment commander. You don't really attack, you block with it if you have to, but the main thing is just to sit there and use its ability. So this comes in 2 different sections. 1, disrupt your opponents with goad. 2, build up value by drawing more enchantments and attacking. To be honest, I do like the art when it comes to this card. He seems to be the perfect Silverquill kind of character that pops into my head. Overall, I do think this is quite a good commander, but it's very straightforward. It's great for newer players, but I do think older players would find it boring and want to build something else. To me, it feels a little bit too slow. But now let's go on to the sub-commander of the deck, and the sub-commander of the deck is Skriv the Obligator. For 2 generic, a white and a black, you get a legendary creature, Inkling Bird, that is a mythic. Flying and Death Touch. Whenever Scribe enters or attacks, create a white or enchantment token named Contract, attached to target creature an opponent controls. The token has enchant creature, and whenever enchant creature attacks, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn, if it's attacking one of your opponents. Otherwise, a controller loses 2 life and is a 2/3. So for 1 more mana, you get a Flying Death Toucher with a new token mechanic called Contract that you put on your opponent's creatures, powering them up doing extra damage if they attack an opponent, and if they don't attack or if they attack you, they lose 2 life, which I do think it's kind of, you kind of pick the green player every time and just put on many contracts as you can on all their beasts, hopefully them not attacking you, where you have enough defenses at the end when it's only a 1v1, you kind of have to wipe him out or you're out. I do like that it's flying and death touch, because I can see it somewhat played as a Voltron commander. It'll be quite difficult, but whenever it enters or attacks, you put contracts on, powering it up, doing more and more commander damage to someone, especially the non-flyer, would be a good way. So you're able to kind of get rid of the non-flyer while putting contracts on the other, hoping them attack the third, which is quite a good strategy overall. One thing I do like about it is quite political, because you can be like, hey, I want to attack you and put this on your thing. If you do, will you attack them and I'll give you a benefit or something like that. Or if you're going to attack them next turn, I'll do 2 damage to you and then you're able to do an extra 2 damage to them, or kind of so on and so on. If you let me play my commander, I'll power up your creature. That will then let you do extra damage to opponent C or B or whatever you want to call it. I actually think this is a solid sub-commander. But that's just the commander and sub-commander. There is an entire deck to go through that will help you make this deck even more powerful. Without even looking at these cards or showing them off, I say there's going to be a lot of enchantment or aura heavy cards. Cards that benefit people with enchanted auras on them, or ways to get them, or make them cheaper. When it comes to the creatures you get, Eiganjo Dynastron, Herald of Amity, Defacing Duskmage, Ajani's Chosen, Archon of Sun's Grace, Armored Skyhunter, Combat Choreographer, Eidolon of Courtless Battles, Fire Mage Commando, Core Spirit Dancer, Mangara the Diplomat, Nil Discipline Enforcer, Pearl Ear Imperial Advisor, Scram Sensor Edificer, Starfield Mystic, Doomwake Giant, Keen Duelist, Brina the Demogorgon, Eitri of the Charmed Apple, Shadrix Silverquill, Tomic Welder of Law. I do find it funny that the dragon of the set is in it, and there is a lot of interesting and quite good cards. Already off the bat, I think this is going to be the best to second best. I think the enchantments are going to be where it all hits. But I'm afraid because a lot of these cards are really good, they're going to take from, we'll say, the artifacts, the spells, and the lands, because that's going to be where the weakest section is. There is a lot of very powerful and well-known cards, previous commanders also in here that are also good and powerful on their own. So it's kind of like you get maybe 4 or 5 commanders in one deck, which I actually kind of do prefer. There's a lot of great value engine cards when it comes to the creatures in this deck. Some cards that give you large board presence or help out with board presence at least, which is usually kind of a weakness when it comes to an enchantment aura deck. You're kind of left quite a bit open for attacks, but at the same time the creatures kind of make it feel all over the place. Between the commander and the sub-commander and the creatures, it's hard to get kind of a deadlock on what you want to do. But other than that, I do find the creatures are a very solid lineup when it comes to this deck. So now let's go on to the enchantments of this deck. When it comes to this, it'll be probably mainly auras or cards that help with auras, but you get cards just like Forum Filibuster, Charging Loyalty, Corrosive Impetus, Intermediate Cryography, Eldrazi Conscription, Eldanic Destiny, Gift of Immortality, Land Tax, Redemption Arc, Shield of Fate, Songbird's Blessing, Ghoulish Impetus. And yet again we get another mix of variations of cards. Some are really good payoffs and well-known cards in Magic the Gathering, which are great for the goading / political side. Then you get big massive auras like the Eldrazi and Algenic Destiny, which is quite good in my opinion on the sub-commander. To me this deck feels that they've kind of gone down one road, but it's split into 2, and then they don't really know how to make it back into 1. Because I can picture you very, very close playing the commander going, ooh, I just really need a good card and then picking up a card that only really works well with the sub commander, or works better on the sub commander, which if you played the sub commander you would have won instead. But even though it still feels quite split, you get good kind of benefits. You get good political auras. I do like that they have added big buff auras, and then the classic general value engines. Now I'm thinking, because of the creature section and the enchantment section being quite a lot better than your average deck, they're going to pull a lot out of the rest. So let's go on to the spells next. When it comes to spells, there's probably some board wipes, a few target removals, but is there anything really good in it? You get Promise of Loyalty, Winds of Wrath, Anguishing Unmaking, Ink Shield, Vanishing Verses. A lot more solid than I thought, not gonna lie there. Ink Shield is such a good card, and it was one of the most talked about and most kind of card that a lot of people wanted when it came to the original Strixhaven. Quite good single target removal, quite good board wipes. The instant and sorceries are slightly weaker, or not that many. However, the ones they did put in were a little bit more powerful than I originally thought they would. It done better than I expected, but kind of still not great. Because it seems they pulled everything out of the artifacts. When it comes to this, there is no artifacts I really want to talk about. They're all like soul rings, kind of arcane signet, and then generic mana rocks. There's nothing here to help with enchantment auras or your creatures. It all just seems to be your generic mana rocks, which is completely fine in this state because they're not really needed, but there's no cards for me to show off. So now finally, where it comes to this section where most things kind of plummet, the lands. When it comes to lands, I do find the precons are very, very cheap when it comes to lands, which is fine, but for how much decks are becoming, I think they should have pulled up the price a little bit. So before even going into the lands, I do think filter lands should be a thing that come in every deck, and then just slightly up some of the lands. So when it comes to this, the lands you get are Eclipse Step, Turbulent Moor, Fable Passage, Desolate Mire, Fetched Heath, Isolated Chapel, Spine Shadow Snarl, Temple of Silence. These are better than I thought. I really don't like the lands that they enter with a colour and you name a second colour. They're not in here. There is a cycle land or two, or a few lands that I'm like a bit but there's a lot of lands like Fable Passage now kind of being in every deck is a good idea, and also the fact that there is a filter land. I do like that they've added in a scry land and stuff like that, so there are actually upping up lands. I actually think this is a good land base. Now, can it be better? Yes, but for a precon I think it is quite solid. So now my overall thoughts and opinions when it comes to this deck as a whole. To answer the question, is this worth buying? I'm actually shocked when it comes to my answer of this. I thought it was going to be slightly worse. It's not great, it's good in my opinion. I do like both the commander and sub commander, but I do find the deck to be kind of slow. I think they've added in a lot of good commander cards, commander staples. I think they've added in a bunch of good creatures, instant and sorceries, and enchantments. The land base is better than most decks, but I think they're gonna kind of have to up it when it comes to this, where this is a solid line. It's kind of on the line, in my opinion, of what a precon should have in it. I roughly went in and had a quick look, and I was roughly giving it maybe a 7.4, 7.6, but going through the deck with you slowly, one at a time, looking through all the cards individually and how they work together, I'm actually going to up it for the first time. I actually think this is a pretty solid deck, especially for a precon or a new player. So I'm actually going to give it an 8.4 overall, but that could possibly be the Strixhaven bias in me. So as always, if you like this deck, if you want to buy it, let me know why in the comments down below. If there's any cards you want to replace or add or change, also let me know down in the comments below. While you're there, remember to like and subscribe and comment and do all that YouTubey stuff we always ask for. And as always, if you like this, I have previous Magic the Gathering videos here, a playlist of Magic the Gathering Is It Worth It here, and a subscribe button here, and I will see you all in the next video. Last time we bullied people with politics, this time we're just blowing everything up. Hey everyone, and in today's video we're talking about the Prismari Artistry deck. If Silverquill was all about manipulation, this is the complete opposite. This deck does not care about your feelings or your board state. It is, I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm going to blow up everyone or everything the way I want to do it. This deck seems that it wants to be big and flashy, casting the biggest spell, doing the most weirdest and strangest things possible, and just hoping that no one survives. This deck seems to be less strategy and more modern art. You throw spells at the canvas and see what sticks. But if you haven't seen my previous video where I go over the Silverquill deck, please do, it's a good watch. Now a quick disclaimer when it comes to this, Izzet is roughly my favourite colour combination. I have 2 or 3 Izzet decks. Not my favourite decks, my favourite one is actually white-blue, but to be honest, Izzet is where my heart usually lies. Secondly, Strixhaven is on par my favourite plane to be, so I'm going to be quite biased. Well, I'm going to try not to be, but there's a high chance I'm going to be a bit biased when it comes to this set. So let's start this video off talking about the commander of the deck, who is Ruther Mastering the Moment. For 2 generic, a blue and a red, you get a legendary creature Orc Sorcerer that is a mythic. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you cast an instant or sorcerer spell this turn, create an XX blue and red elemental creature token with flying and haste, where X is the greatest mana value among instant and sorcerer spells you cast this turn, and is a 3/5. So pretty much what this means is you cast it on the turn you can, and the next turn use all your mana to play the biggest spell you possibly can to be able to get a creature that hits directly. So personally, I think this goes really well with huge damage spells. Realistically, you do a lot of damage to someone's flyer, destroying it, and then go in with the token you just made. Creating a huge flyer on each of your turns is really good, especially if you want it to attack and block. It's mainly kind of like, oh, I need to draw more cards, I'm going to play this big massive blue X spell to draw like 5 or 6 cards and get a little block this turn, where next turn I'm going to be able to attack because I'm playing on my next turn the red spell doing a lot of damage to someone that I just drew this turn. It's very 1 turn attack, 1 turn defend type of strategy. The cool thing about this is second your commander's down, you're able to put a little bit of pressure on. Low cost spells are kind of going to be a bit but the longer the game goes on, the more powerful this deck becomes. And because the tokens have haste, you're applying on pressure very fast. When it comes to this, the creatures and the spells are going to be the most important part of this deck. This deck is kind of strange when it comes to other Izzet decks. Izzet decks are usually like very stormy, copy your spells and stuff. This is, I'm just playing 1 big spell and then hopefully going from there. Now as an Izzet lover, I'm kind of not really gelling well with this commander. I'm more of a, I want to play shock like 6 times because I've copied it 5, then doing some weird stuff with it. Playing a really big red or blue spell is fine and quite good. Getting a little flyer is a bit, or getting a big flyer like a 6/6 we'll say, or an 8/8 is good. However, personally I would be more of a Izzet player that would play like the Locust God. Drawing a load of cards, paying the same amount of mana as the 1 big spell, however I now have 6 1/1s all doing damage, that when they all do damage I get to draw a card for each one and then making 6 more instead of having 1 8/8 or 1 10/10. Straight off the bat, I think this is going to be quite a slow commander deck, but very powerful. It's kind of like a TNT with a long fuse. I say there'll be turns that you're preparing and setting up, so a lot of just sitting around, but Izzet usually sometimes has to do that. And then go, trust me, next turn's going to be crazy. Nah, next turn's going to be crazy. Nah. Next turn's going to be crazy. And you either win or lose. I find this or most Izzet decks to be a very glass cannon deck. But that's just my opinion on the commander. But with every commander is a sub-commander. When it comes to the sub-commander of this deck, it is Muddle the Ever Changeling. For 2 generic, a blue and a red, you get a legendary creature elemental otter shapeshifter that is a mythic. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Muddle becomes a copy of up to 1 target non-legendary creature you control until end of turn, except for it has Myriad, and is a 3/3. This seems more of my jam. This is the type of commander I would love to play or build around. Imagine playing this, just doing a little shock or something, and then going, cool, this little otter thingy is now this non-legendary, we'll say Eldrazi, or Giant Kraken, or even Fleet Swallower, and then I'm going to attack, and then makes people mill half their deck. Or there's that Eldrazi that's a non-legendary that has Annihilate like 6 or 8 or something. So then you're attacking with that, going, cool, these are all annihilating that much. Like, there's so many big creatures and stuff like that. Like, even Meteor Golem seems worth it. Cool, I got 4 more Meteor Golems, I'm destroying 4 more things. Like, there's so many cool cards you can play with this. And it's whenever you cast an instant or sorcery. Now there's a few downsides. One, Muddle doesn't have haste, so you kind of need to give it haste, because if you play it, then play a 2-cost spell, it just kind of sits there, which kind of sucks. The fact that it has Myriad really does help. But I do find it's kind of the opposite of what you want from the commander. With the commander, you want a big X spell or an 8-cost spell or a 6-cost spell up to be able to make a big ass token. Where when it comes to this, you want big ass creatures that are broken with low cost spells, so you can go, cool, I play this, like, we'll say 8/8, and then I have 2 mana spare. Yeah, sure, I'm going to play this 2 mana like really shitty like draw a card spell. So it seems to be with the commander you want high cost spells, with the sub commander you want high cost creatures and low cost spells. So it seems to be 2 different directions it's going. And the fact that it gets Myriad is also really, really good. This seems to be a type of commander I would love to build, so if you're interested, let me know in the comments down below and I will build a deck on Moxfield and do a deck tech on it. Because I have a funny feeling this is not going to go the direction I would personally build it. I think because of the way the commander is, I think the sub-commander is going to be harder, because I think having different ways to get haste is really good. Because if you play that big creature that you want to Myriad, you also want to attack with that creature. So giving it different ways to have haste will be necessary. However, the tokens that come with the commander already have haste, so I can picture them like not putting in an anger or anything like that. Honest opinion, I prefer the sub-commander by a landslide. I would love to do a deck tech video on it. But if you disagree and think the commander is better, let me know why in the comments down below. But talking about decks, let's go into the deck itself, starting with the creatures. So when it comes to the creatures, you get Inspired Sky Painter, Deerger Force Mage, Letmofit Composer, Prismari Plaintist, Renegade Bull, Fairy Mastermind, Harmonic Prodigy, Archmage Eternatus, Brenzen Burrower, Curious Crafter, Thunderclap Drake, Goldspan Dragon, Maniform Hellkite, Morrowing Dragon, Plaga Nasari, Redouble Stormsinger, Bruticlad Telchor Engineer, Galazeth Prismari, Veyron Voice of Duality, and Solum Ciliacrium. There is a lot more dragons than I originally thought there would be. This creature set is strange to me. I do think it is quite good and quite playable, but just personally, not a way I would personally go. I don't know how powerful this could be just looking at the creatures themselves. The cool thing about it is there are a fair few good cards, mainly dragons. Solum Ciliacrium with the sub-commander seems very funny though, because I'm pretty sure you draw 4 cards and get 4 lands. Or 3, depending on... yeah, let me know how that works down in the comments down below. Some of these cards do seem a bit random and more towards the commander, which is fair. Just personally, this is not the way I would build either of the decks, but it is hard to find a good mid-ground. But you do get some good draw, some good spell synergy, and you've got some good token stuff, and then just random value engines overall. This kind of feels like 3 different decks had to all meet in one location and drove a bit too fast and just collided and became one big mess. I find the balancing of this deck already to be quite difficult and quite bad. Usually the way they build the decks is somewhat similar, so I know when it comes to these spells there's going to be a lot of board wipes and single target spells which work well for this. However, I just find the deck is going to be more all over the place because of that. When it comes to spells you get Abstract Performance, Fury Gale Flocking, Chain Reaction, Replication Technique, Rite of Replication, Blasphemous Act, Creative Technique, Dance with Calamity, Rousing Refrain, Surge to Victory, Twin Flame, Volcanic Salvo, Dig Through Time, Chaos Warp, Magma Opus, Prismari Command. And this is kind of where the deck makes a little bit more sense. However, there's a few spells that I'm kind of like, why are you in here? Especially with big massive board wipes where it's like, cool, I'm going to play my commander, play Blasphemous Act for 1 red, getting a big massive token after my commander just died. I think there should be a, maybe, I don't know, 2 mana protect it from spells you cast this turn or something like that to kind of help it out that way, because it seems to be with some of these cards or anything like that, if you want to add it in, you're going to kill your own commander to get a big massive flyer. Now that is potentially good if you play something that is absolutely, like if you have infinity mana and you go, cool, I'm going to play this board wipe that's an X spell, but I'm going to put X as 1,000 and then I'm going to have an 1,000 and I'm going to attack you with it and you're out and I win, then that's fair. But the chance of that happening with this is slim from the deck itself. You can build it that way potentially, but that seems to be a very one-on-one thing out of a 4-player game. I can see out of this box getting spells going, this is not what I need, or this is what I need. It's very 50-50. It's, if you're playing the commander and you get the big massive spell, you're like, this is great, boom. Then if you play it with the sub commander and draw the same card, you go, I don't need this right now. I want to attack. Like, stop. My small kind of criticism between this is it seems a bit too chaotic, but to be honest, that does also seem perfect for this deck. But I can picture a lot of players playing this going, cool, I want this to work, and it didn't work, and it wasn't because of my opponents, it was because I didn't draw the cards I needed, because this is 3 decks in 1. So now let's go on to the next section, the enchantments. When it comes to this, there is a total of 1 enchantment, which is fair because it is a very spell heavy deck, so having 1 enchantment kind of somewhat makes sense because you're not really planning on doing stuff. However, when it comes to this enchantment, it is Determined Iteration. For 1 generic and a red, you get an enchantment that is a rare. At the beginning of combat on your turn, populate. The token created this way gains haste. Sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. Not gonna lie, if you play this with the sub commander, it kinda is useless because this is the beginning of combat. If you're playing your commander, you go boom, I play the spell, I get a 6/6, we'll say. At the beginning of my combat, I have 2 6/6s. That is really good. However, with the sub commander, you go, cool, I play this spell, my commander becomes this. I start combat, I have not made a token, this is then useless. I then attack, make a bunch of tokens. So it's not really helpful there, because this is at the beginning of combat, merely as during combat. So I find that this to be a kind of meh card for this deck. However, I do think this is a really good card for other decks. If you're playing the 10/10 Eldrazi that makes a token of an Eldrazi, this is really good for that because you get a 3rd one, which is really good. For 10 mana, you're getting 30 damage on the board where 1 has to be sacrificed. But that's really good if you have, we'll say, a red-black deck where the whole point is to sacrifice stuff for additional benefits. This card, to me, very much feels like it goes really well in a Rakdos, not an Izzet type of deck. But now let's go on to the artifacts of the deck. And again, when it comes to the artifacts, there is 1. Now when I'm saying that, there's not just 1 artifact like there was an enchantment, there is your Soul Ring, your Arcane Signet, and the rest are mana rocks. There is just one that is kind of different from the rest, but it's still also a mana rock at the same time. But it's the only one I kind of want to mention. When it comes to that, the card is Cursed Mirror. For 2 generic and a red, you get an artifact that is a rare. Tap, add a red. As this artifact enters, you may have it become a copy of any creature on the battlefield until end of turn, except for it has haste. Now this is a really good card. For 3 mana, you were able to make a copy of something. However, the only somewhat downside is I've seen a few people go, do you know what? You're attacking me with these 2 creatures. I'm going to block the Cursed Mirror one and not the other one, because if that dies, that's gone. That's fair. But if the token dies, that 1 mana you also just got for your next turn is gone. Doesn't matter. So I do find a lot of people more target this one than any other, but it is kind of worth it and a really good card. But now, usually the worst section, the lands. I do think they have been getting better, and if they continue doing what they're doing, maybe add a little bit more spice, I think it'll be perfect. And if we're basing it again off the first commander deck I went over, I think we'll be fine. But when it comes to the lands you get, Scorched Geyser, Turbulent Springs, Fable Passage, Cascade Bluffs, Furious Lake, Frostbile Snarl, Relentless Spire, Shivan Reef, Sulphur Falls, Temple of Epiphany. Usually the lands is the worst complaint I have. This is a very rare thing. This is now the enchantments. I think the enchantments could have been a little bit better. But no, if it has a red pip, they have to put Blasphemous Act in, and if it has a white pip, they have to put Swords of Plowshare in. Them just seem to be the rules. And Sun Titan, that's also a rule. I do think the lands have got better, but I don't know the prices. Have the prices gone up on decks? Let me know in the comments down below if they have. But I'm happy that the lands are getting a little bit of benefit over the years. But now my final thoughts and opinions on this deck. As a Strixhaven Prismari lover, I'm quite disappointed. I absolutely loved the Zafri deck. Even with the problem with the Zafri card itself, I have a Zafri Commander deck. It is probably my second favorite deck I have. Now, I am so going to upgrade it with the new Zafri and stuff like that. I love this card to pieces. This deck, surprisingly, very disappointing. If they switched it around and put the sub-commander as the commander and changed a good chunk of the cards around, potentially could be an amazing deck to buy. I do find the commander currently is very slow and hit and miss, especially for the cards they've put in, or if they've changed it around that it kind of works similar, but that would be a complete redo. The card selections are just kind of rather famous cards or good cards in that generic area that they threw in. There seems to be kind of, usually I'm fine when it comes to a pre-con being a little bit fanned out, but this just seems to be 2 fans glued together at opposite directions. I'm not really a big fan of that. I do think overall it is playable, it has good lands, it has a good idea. However, it seems to be you're all or you're nothing. Comparing this to the first Strixhaven deck, where I was kind of getting my hopes up for this one, I'm fairly disappointed. I do find the first one to be a good chunk better. But in saying that, you do get good cards. It is somewhat good. I find the dragons to be a bit weird, but in a good chaotic way. So overall, I'm going to give this a 5.8 over 10. But that's my grading. I would love to hear your grading and why down in the comments down below. And while you're there, remember to like and subscribe and do all that YouTube-y stuff that every YouTuber asks for. And as always, if you like this one, I have the previous Strixhaven video here, a playlist of all the Strixhaven videos I make here, and a subscribe button here, and I will see you all in the next video. This deck doesn't just drain your life, it farms it. Witherbloom Pestilence is about turning pain into power. But is this deck actually going to be good, or is it slowly going to kill you? Let us find out. Hey everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be talking about the third Strixhaven deck. If you haven't seen, I have 2 of the decks already done and we have 2 more to go after this. So I will be doing the entire thing, then the set and the mythical archetypes. There's a lot when it comes to the Strixhaven set. But today we're going to be going through life gain, life drain and graveyard nonsense, which is Witherbloom is known for. When it comes to Witherbloom, it is the part of Strixhaven which majority of the cards are black and green. It's all about life and death and plants and pests and stuff like that. There's going to be a lot of life gain, life drain, tokens, putting stuff in the graveyard, putting stuff out the graveyard, and then some other sneaky stuff in between. But let's go right at the start of the deck and talk about the Commander. We have seen this Commander previously in the previous Strixhaven deck, but she is back with a brand new card. And that card is Dina, Essence Brewer. For 1 generic, a black and a green, you get a legendary creature, Dryad Druid, that is a mythic. Whenever you sacrifice a creature, draw a card. This ability only triggers once each turn. Tap 2 and it, sacrifice another creature. You gain X life and put X/1/1 counters on target creature you control, where X is the sacrificed creature's power, and she's a 2/3. A 3 mana commander that is a 2/3 that has 2 effects that both correlate with each other is really good. I already think straight off the bat that this is a very good and powerful commander overall. It is cheap, it is useful, and you can do a lot with it. To me, she's more of a enchantment commander, where you're not really attacking or you're blocking but not really big creatures with her. The whole main thing of her is you're using her abilities because they work together. You tap 2 on her, you sacrifice a creature, which means you draw a card, you gain X life, and then you're able to make another one of your creatures very powerful. So a cool thing is on the end of the previous player's turn, you can go, cool, I'm gonna tap 2, sacrifice this creature to make this thing with trample even bigger. Then at the start of my turn, I'm going to replay it from the graveyard or replay another creature. It is really cool. You have all the green for the ramp and the big green spells and putting 1/1 counters on, and then you have the black cards for regeneration, sacrifice to gain life and stuff like that, or sacrifice to get additional benefits. Or you could also have it that whenever one of your creatures die, everyone else has to sacrifice a creature too. The other cool thing about her is her first ability. It's whenever a creature is sacrificed, draw a card. This ability only triggers once each turn. So if you have multiple tokens on the field and multiple sack outlets, you can just kind of slow down. You don't want to go, cool, I'm going to sacrifice these 5 creatures and do it all at once. If you have a few instances or a few like artifacts or lands that let you sacrifice stuff, you can go, cool, I'm going to take my time. Cool, I'm going to do it once. On your turn, I'm going to do it a second time and draw a card. On your turn, same thing again, and on your turn. So you're drawing 4 cards potentially every cycle. Technically 5 if you're also counting drawing the card on the start of your turn. There is kind of many different ways you can play. You can literally play her as a giant 1/1 counter deck. You can play her as a wide token kind of sack outlet deck. You can play her as, if I have no creatures, you have no creatures, or you can have it that if you have creatures that when they die they become tokens, you can bring them back and sacrifice them and just keep getting an army of tokens, making sure that you have other cards on the field that whenever you have to get rid of something, they also have to get rid of something. So then you potentially have an army of tokens on the field and your opponents have nothing because they've had to sacrifice multiple creatures a turn. I do like this as a commander, plus you're gaining X life every time. So if you bring stuff back, like if you reanimate Triplicate Titan, yeah, you lose 10 health. Then if you sacrifice it, you gain 10 health back and then have 3 3/3s with different keywords, and then you get to bring it back again. So it's cool stuff like that. I do really like this as a commander. It is one of those things that I would personally like on Moxfield to make a deck where the whole point is making sure that no one has anything and I'm constantly growing and putting tokens everywhere and gaining a bunch of life. So if you want to see my variation of this deck, let me know and I will make it on Moxfield and I will do a deck tech on that video. If this gets 1,000 views and at least 1 comment of someone going do it, I'll do it. But now let's talk about the sub commander of the deck. because this one goes in a very unique direction. The sub-commander is Gorma the Gullet. For 1 generic, a black and a green. You get a legendary creature, Pest Frog, that is in Mythic. Has a lifelink. Whenever another creature you control dies, put a 1/1 counter on Gorma. Non-token creatures you control enter with an additional +1/+1 counter on them for each creature that died under your control this turn, and is a 1/1. This one in my opinion is not as good, but still quite good. It feels to me like it is a small kind of chugger. You literally sit it there, kind of do nothing, and then every time you like kind of reuse and recycle your own creatures, you sacrifice them, bring them back. This gets stronger and stronger. Find different ways to proliferate and put more 1/1 counters on it, and then it gets even more and more powerful over time. And then you find Rogue's Passage one-shot one of your enemies. I do think it is cool and a very unique card, but it's whenever your creatures die and it's non-token, so it's kind of, you're putting a lot of mana in for a little bit of payout. Hopefully it's then getting to the point that it's really powerful. But it also does help by putting additional 1/1 counters, so you have to do all the sacrificing stuff on rather the start of your main phase or all of main phase 1, and then play your creatures at the end before combat or at main phase 2. Not gonna lie, and I do think they need to make a card like this, but they never will, a colorless fling. This and having a colorless fling would be hilarious in my opinion. Another thing that I think they should have done, which at the same time I understand why they shouldn't, these two, the commander and the sub-commander, should have partner with. I know that would be weird, but I think them having like maybe a different variation of the dragon or just the dragon from Witherbloom would have been a cool sub-commander, but kind of have like a third sub-commander. I know that Dina, the old version of Dina's in here, but I think these two should have had partner with, in my personal opinion. Let me know if that's a good idea or a bad idea down below. Overall, I think both of them combined, compared to the other decks, this is the most solid commander and sub-commander in my opinion. But let's go on to the creatures of the deck. This is where the deck is going to be mainly put together. This is going to be where majority of the cards are. This does seem to be a very creature and kind of sorcerer instant heavy deck, because the whole point is you play a bunch of creatures and then you get to play more and sacrifice them, so it's kind of really good. There's probably a good few board wipes too, and a lot of creatures that are going to make tokens or variations of tokens. But when it comes to the cool creatures of this deck, you get Merchant of Venom, Defiling Demogoth, Sensine Sangustus, Pest Rescuer, Riptoost Roaster, Eccentric Pest Finder, Ophnomancer, Tendershoot Dryad, Bloodghast, Jadar Ghoulcaller of Nephalia, Nether Trader, Priest of the Forgotten Gods, Smothering Ambition, Vainwitch Coven, Witch of the Moors, Woe Strider, Yenny Undying Partisan, Blooming Bogbeast, Gilded Goose, Mycoloth, Oran Frostfang, Beladros Witherbloom, Creekwood Liege, Gyro Master Chef, Mesric Cool Death Priest, Rite of the Reliquary. This just straight off the bat is a Witherbloom deck. Like whenever I think Witherbloom, I think a lot of these creature cards. There is a cool amount of things making things stronger, a lot of token generation, and then there's some really big payoff cards as well. This deck does feel like, oh no, you killed my creatures, I'm just going to bring them back more powerful, oh no. This does seem to be a very heavy creature deck, so if there's a lot of like single target or board wipes, this deck is kind of useless, but also could potentially get more powerful because of it. My only fear when it comes to this is I do find the sub-commander is quite slow, especially if you buy it out this deck and don't change it. If you had focus on the sub-commander, I say potentially has very big and powerful explosive damage, but it seems to be one of those kind of, it will get really powerful really fast, but then will just die off very slowly and burn out. But I think overall when it comes to the creatures, it's actually a good selection of creatures and well known and quite powerful one. But now let's move on to the spells of the deck. This is going to be where a lot of regeneration is. This is going to be a lot of board wipes and kill spells. And this is probably going to be the second best section when it comes to this deck as a whole. So if you don't know, you get cards just like Omnious Harvest, Immortal Bargain, Toxic Deluge, Final Act, Pest Infection, Casualties of War, Culling Ritual, Witherbloom Command, and Assassin's Trophy. So I have found the last year or two there is a lot of reprint potential. There's always Soul Rings, Icon Signets, Swords Plowshare, Blasphemous Act, a lot of red and white cards that are just constantly being put in every deck that has the pip. And I do think they're kind of starting to do it with Toxic Deluge. I do think it is an amazing card, and I do think that it is one of those cards that does belong to be like Blasphemous Act, that there's just going to be a ton of them in the future. And then there's a fair few stronger cards which I wouldn't think I would have seen maybe last year or the year before, like Assassin's Trophy and stuff like that. I do think that they are kind of up in the decks, but my worry is that it's rather they're going to up the price of the deck, or they've reprinted cards so many times that the prices are lowering, so they feel more comfortable throwing them into decks now. So cards maybe seen 3 to 5 years ago that were big, massive, huge cards, kind of not game enders, but big interrupters of a game, are now being printed in every single deck, or majority of the decks. I do love majority of the spells in this deck, and I do think because of the creatures and the spells that this is getting kind of a big boost when it comes to ratings. I do think we're getting kind of the point where the decks, the pre-con decks, are kind of catching up to how people play usually, and you're kind of somewhat getting your money compared to the deck, but it is kind of a slow burner to get it there, if that makes sense. Alright, let's go on to the enchantments. When it comes to the enchantments of the deck, you get Feral Appetite, Blight Mound, Awakening Zone, Trudge Garden, Moldvine Reclamation. Personally, these are good. I do like these. I did put an uncommon because, to be honest, I think it should be a rare for how good that card is. I do like these overall. They are more focusing on the pest, which makes sense. There is 1 or 2 cards I would have replaced straight off the bat. I know there's that, I can't remember it from the top of my head, but I think it's like 5 to 8 mana whenever one of my creatures die, your creatures die. Black card, I think it has like a dragon's head on it or something. I do think that would have been good in here. Personally, I do think it's hard to balance the commander and sub-commander with good enchantments. I think this is more leaning towards the kind of commander but also sub-commander because it's a pest. But I do think that if I was to build it, I would be putting different enchantments in, except for the last one. The last one's just great. So I'm curious, do you think these enchantments are actually good for the pre-con itself with no changes, or do you think they could have done better decisions when it comes to the enchantments? And now we're going on to the artifacts, which is, in my opinion, weird, but the biggest disappointment so far. I'm fine with them putting Arcane Signet and Soul Ring in every single commander deck, but that's all they put in. I want at least one artifact, like a Witch's Oven or something like that, even if it wasn't great. The fact that they put kind of pretty much, in my opinion, none in is not good. I do think the decks are getting better, and I do think you are getting playable decks for the money. You need to do like less changes to make it fun, so in my opinion you're putting less money. It's like the deck you're buying is getting more and more playable just straight out the box every single year. However, they kind of go, we can't do that, we need to then pull this out a good chunk. So when it comes to this, there's always 2 really good sections, 1 okay section, a terrible section, and then lands. Where lands are getting better. To be honest, it's always weird now. For like 2 years of me making content, I would always say the lands are the worst. The last like 5-6 videos, the lands are actually like the second worst to the third worst. Like, they're getting better. So when it comes to having no artifacts in, it's a bit silly in my opinion. So if you could put 1 artifact in normal art for under a tenner, what artifact would you put in? And then finally, the lands. When it comes to the lands, you get Turbulent Fen, Fabled Passage, Grim Backwoods, High Market, Llanowar Wastes, Necroblossom Snarl, Temple of Melody, Twilight Mire, Venal Fen, Bright Sense Bog, Woodland Cemetery. I really do like the fact that they have 2 sacrifice lands. High Market is a must in my opinion, not really a must, but it is a really good card. I have a 3-color deck where I need to sacrifice stuff. And the amount of times it has helped me just to keep that land untapped and just sacrifice something is great. I think this land is very unappreciated, especially in a sacrifice deck. Also, having Fabled Passage and a filter land in this is great. Fabled Passage is a very powerful land, and I do think they are doing good by constantly reprinting it. Plus you get a lot of fair or quite good other lands in here, so they are doing better when it comes to lands. Now my overall thoughts and opinions on this deck. I do love the commander. Again, if I get 1,000 views and at least one comment saying that they want me to make the video, I will. 2, the sub-commander's good, it's a bit weird, quite slow. The rest of the deck for building it towards the 2 is quite, like, my opinion, like 60-40-ish, like more towards the commander than the sub-commander, which is fine. I do think they should have partner with. Creatures and spells, great. Enchantments and lands, good. Artifacts, at least put one in. Even if it's terrible, just put an artifact in. Overall, I do think they are getting better, and it could be that Strixhaven is my favourite kind of playing overall, so I'm being a bit biased. But overall, I'm going to give this deck an 8.9 out of 10. So as always, I would love to hear, 1, your opinion of this down in the comments down below with your rating out of 10. 2, if I should make the deck tech on the commander of how I would build it. 3, what artifact you would put in under a tenner. And then while you're down there, remember to like and subscribe and do all that YouTubey stuff we always ask for. And as always, if you like this one, I have my previous Strixhaven Commander Deck review here, a playlist of all Is It Worth It Magic the Gathering stuff here, and a subscribe button here, and I will see you all in the next video. Have you ever looked through a deck and thought, wow, that's a pile of cards? Well, welcome to Lorehold Spirit, a deck that feels like a history teacher made it. And somehow, with having dragons, spirits, and angels, just feels like it's a history test. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are going over Lorehold Spirits. It is the 4th commander deck I've gone through, I think, from the top of my head. I will be going over all of them, but this is this video's one. Now when it comes to red-white commander decks, I'm always a bit iffy of them, and this serves me right. For a very spirit-heavy themed deck, there's also quite a lot of random cards. There is kind of one big shocking thing when it comes to this deck. It's not even that big. But still, I think this deck is worth talking about. There is some good things about it. So I'll be going over the commander, the sub-commander, the context of the decks, and then giving an overall rating of, is this deck worth it or not? So let's start off with the commander of the deck, and this is actually a good idea. I really do like planeswalkers, and I really do like planeswalkers as commanders. I really do think that this should be a kind of commander-esque planewalker, kind of different. I know there's Oathkeeper, but Oathkeeper's a bit different than what I'm expecting. I really do like this, but I've always wanted the black-green Garruk and the Tezzeret from the box to be commanders. They will be absolutely amazing commanders in my opinion. But when it comes to the commander of this deck, you get Quandrix History Chaser. For 2 generic, a red and a white, you get a legendary planeswalker Quandrix that is a mythic. Whenever one or more cards leave the graveyard, create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. +1. You may discard a card. If you do, draw 2 cards, then mill a card. -4. Spirits you control gain double strike and vigilance until end of turn. Quandrix History Chaser can be your commander and starts on 5 loyalty. 4 mana for a 5 loyalty planeswalker is quite good. It's the kind of abilities on it that make it. I think its ult of -4 is fine. It's a great game ender if you're planning on going all out with your army, which this card does. Whenever a card pretty much leaves your graveyard, you're able to make a spirit token, which personally, I know spirits are white and blue and then there's red with the anger. I think cards in your graveyard coming out is very black or black-green. So again, I do find that a little strange. However, making a spirit token and the card being white makes sense. Now the +1 is good for what you're aiming for. However, has nothing to do with you making a spirit token. or the ultimate. Yes, you are putting 2 cards into your graveyard, but you're not taking any of them out. Now, if it was like kind of discard a card, you can play that until end of turn, but it's in your graveyard, then I'll be like, yeah, great. So overall, I think this is a quite good commander. You get to ult it right away, but that's what I'll be mainly doing it for. I'll be mainly focused on making the tokens with all the other cards, and then just kind of go, cool, my turn. I want to tap 4, play my commander, -4 it straight off the bat, and then do extra combat with the rest of my mana because we're on like turn 8 or 10. Boom, let's go. Not really planning on having my commander out turn 4, but that's just the way I play. Yeah, it's good to like draw and discard and mill for this type of deck, but I think most of it will be used with the cards themselves, then the commander. But with every commander is a sub-commander, and the sub-commander of this deck is Excava, the Risen Past. For 2 generic, a red and a white, you get a legendary creature Spirit Horse that is a mythic, has flying and haste. Whenever Excava attacks, return up to 1 target artifact, creature, or aura enchantment card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard till the battlefield with a finality counter on it. It's a 1/1 spirit creature with flying in addition to its other types, and is a 3/3. So a 4 mana commander for a 3/3 with 2 keywords that lets you get something back and also gains flying and is a 1/1 is quite strong. I think this would actually be good with that enchantment that turns all your token creatures into 4/4 angels, but then I'm not sure if the finality counter will go on it because the 1/1 spirit isn't going to be there. Now again, knowing me, the way the card works is it still gets the finality counter, but being able to attack with this and get a 4/4 flying vigilance angel seems really cool. However, it does have the downside of you kind of need a fair few amount of cards that are going to be 3 mana or less. But with having creatures, artifacts, and non-aura enchantments, it seems quite easy enough. Out of the 2, I actually think this is the better one. However, having both on the field seems amazing. Pretty much using the ability to draw and discard, then attack with this to then be able to bring one of the cards you got rid of back to get a flyer, and then being able to then get the additional benefits is a really good combo piece. I do think the commander and sub-commander work really well together. So now let's go on to the creatures of the deck, and hopefully a lot of these are 3 mana or less. When it comes to this, you get Lorehold Activist, Austria Order Returned, Vanguard of the Restless, Noctamoon Law Spinner, Relic Receiver, Spirit of Resilience, Moonshaker Cavalry, Angel of Indemnity, Ao the Dawn Sky, Claim Jumper, Broom Bellower, Guardian of Faith, Guardian Scale Lord, Karmic Guide, Remorseful Cleric, Selfless Spirit, Sarah Paragon, Sky Cleave Apparition, Sun Titan, White Orchard Phantom, Atsushi the Blazing Sky, Conspiracy Theorist, Laella the Blade Reforged, Balefire Leech, Hothright Ghostforge, Quandrix Lawmaster, Venerable War Singer. In my opinion, a lot of these creatures are just generically good cards for this deck. There seems to be a lot of reprints, and there was the Calamity card, which I was like, oh, that was a really good card from a previous set, getting a brand new remake. When it comes to this, I do find the creatures overall to be generically good and work well with the commander or sub-commander of the deck. For me, thinking red-white is kind of the worst duo kind of color pairing, I find this to be quite unique and good. However, I do find it to be a little bit kind of all over the place. I think this being called a spirit deck is a bit of a, not a lie, but a misrepresentation. So now let's go on to the enchantments of the deck. When it comes to the enchantments of the deck, there is only really 3 I want to mention, and they are Advanced Reconstruction, Monogoly Tax, Tocassia's Welcome. To be honest, for this deck to work, I do find these cards don't need to be in them, but they are the first cards that pop into my head. They're kind of like extra draw type of cards that this deck really does need. When it comes to white and red, I do think it is kind of the worst color pairings to draw, even though white has been getting better when it comes to that. These cards are nothing groundbreaking, but are very useful for the deck overall. So next is the artifact section. When it comes to this, you get Staff of the Storyteller, Erochomancer's Map, Bitterthorn Nissa's Animus, Currency Converter. So I do think having the Bitterthorn card in here is cool, but there is that, I can't remember the name, it's like Nissa's sword and she's holding it, that whenever you attack you can get a basic land. I think this would go really well, especially with the sub commander, mainly because the other one's a planeswalker and it will not attach to it. But having one of your many creatures in the deck, being able to have that ability to get extra lands is good. I do find the artifacts intriguing and quite good, but again, it feels like these cards are needed more than flexibility. I find that this deck is very solid and you need certain cards in it to make it work somewhat well. That they won't be unless they're really broken cards. There's not much flexibility when it comes to this deck. But now let's go on to the spells. So you'll probably get your classic board wipes, single target removal and stuff like that. But other cards that you might be interested in are Ceaseless Conflict, Fateful Tempest, Wave of Reckoning, Sylvain's Reclamation, Tragic Arrogance. To be honest, I just kind of more find these boring. There's no good instances. There is, again, the two classic Swords to Plowshare and the other Path of Exile that are in all these decks. I do find when it comes to white and red, there's always Sun Titan, Path of Exile, Swords to Plowshare, and Blasphemous Act. The fact that there isn't a Blasphemous Act here is kind of shocking, but it seems to be whenever Wizards is like, let's build a deck. It has a red pip and it has a white pip. Someone on the team just throws those cards in every single time. Now again, it's not that they're bad cards, however, put in something different. If a card is somewhat similar, put in something different, or make a new card for it. If it was a mana extra, and it's Swords of Plowshare, but whenever a creature dies, you get a +1/+1 spirit or something like that, then cool. But no, they just put in the same cards. So again, the fact that Blasphemous Act isn't in here is quite a shocker to me. Now this shocking section. This thing shocked me. For someone that has been making these videos for nearly 3 years now, I'm always like, cool, the lands are bad. The last year, half a year, I'm like, the lands are getting better. They're putting filter lands and cards that work well with it. I will actually say for the first time, this deck has a good land base for what you're buying. It is just over the line of, is this good or not? So when it comes to the lands, you get Turbulent Steep, Fable Passage, Clifftop Retreat, Emria the Sky Ruin, Fury Calm Snarl, Lotus Field, Radiant Summit, Rugged Prairie, Sunscorched Divide. So again, having a filter land in here is good, having Fable Passage here is good, but the two main cards that shocked me is the Lotus Field and Sky Ruin. Sky Ruin is such a good card and I think is averaging on 20 quid, so a lot of the cards in here must be quite cheap for them to go, here is quite a pricey card. And then Lotus Field is actually quite a good card, especially if you're planning on bringing stuff from your graveyard. Again, I actually think a black-green version of the commander would be really good, and then someone sacrificing a bunch of their own lands and then replaying their own lands and getting a bunch of 1/1 spirit would be a fun deck. So this is the first time ever I had to take a double take on the lands and go, actually, these are somewhat interesting. They're really cool. I like them. To be honest, other than the creatures, I find this to be the second best section in the entire deck, which is the first. It's usually last or second last. But when it comes to the overall deck of itself, I find that it is kind of rock solid. You can change around, but the flexibility of the deck is rock solid, and it doesn't seem, in my playstyle, that fun. So if you actually are a red-white player and bought this deck and like this deck, let me know why in the comments down below. Let me know what you find fun about this deck, because to be honest, even doing my research on this deck and stuff like that, it seems to be the first deck in at least 6 months that I've just gone, this is just boring. There's nothing bad about it, there is good cards, but just overall boring. I would love you to change my mind in the comments down below though. So overall my rating, I'm going to give it a 5.8. Mainly just due to, it just seems to be a lot of the cards are needed. There's not much flexibility. It is cool that they have a Planeswalker as a commander, but overall I just kind of no interested. Generic cards, kind of red-white, kind of slop in my opinion. I would love, this is actually one of the first times I would love to actually have someone change my opinion and my rating when it comes to this. So if you know any ideas or anything that can make this deck more fun, let me know in the comments down below. And while you're there, remember to like and subscribe and do all that YouTubey stuff we always ask for. And as always, if you like this video, I have a previous Magic the Gathering video here, a playlist of all the Magic the Gathering Is It Worth It stuff here, and a subscribe button here, and I will see you all in the next video. Have you ever wanted to build a deck that doesn't feel like Magic, but more like doing algebra against unwilling people? Because that is exactly what Quandrix Unlimited does. This deck doesn't just ramp, it calculates. It doesn't just make tokens, it makes tax documents with toughness and power. By turn 6, you have your opponent sitting there going, is that correct? We're only on turn 6, should you have that many lands and should that creature be that big? And surprisingly the answer is yes. It's always yes. Hey everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be going over the last Strixhaven Commander deck. Yes, it took 5 weeks to do. Where I'll be going over Quandrix Unlimited. In this video we'll be going over the commanders, the sub-commander and the context of the deck to answer is this worth it or not. And then that'll be me done with the Quandrix decks. Then I'll be going on to the set in the next video. And then my favourite, the Mystical Archives. When it comes to this deck, it is blue, green or Simic for you veteran players. This deck is going to be filled with X spells, a lot of +1/+1 counters and fractals. And then also enough ramp to make your opponents question their life choices. This is going to be filled with potentially huge big creatures. And then have a few enchantments and artifacts and maybe spells to power them up. Now if you like maths or have a maths degree, I say you're really going to like this deck. But now let's start with the brains of the operation, the commander. When it comes to the commander of the deck, she has had many cards before and is quite a powerful legendary creature overall. When it comes to the commander of the deck, it is WoNE Infinite Analyst. For 1 generic, a green and a blue, you get a legendary creature human wizard that is a mythic. The first spell you cast with X in its mana cost this turn costs 1 less to cast for each +1/+1 counter on WoNE. Whenever you cast your first spell with X in its mana cost each turn, put 2 1/1 counters on WoNE and she's a 0/4. A 3 mana commander that's already a good blocker is really good. Plus, her ability also helps her out and it cycles itself. You play a big X spell, she gets +2, then because she gets +2, your next big X spell then costs even less. So then it's just repeat and cycle. Plus, if you can protect her, you're getting a lot of big creatures, potentially for free, or even better, at a lower cost, but having huge creatures. This is what I love in the commander. It is less than 5 mana, it is quite a good blocker on its own, plus both kind of abilities on the card work really well together. Plus it makes things cheaper. It's a very snowbally deck already just with the commander and I absolutely love that. This plus ramp plus double 1/+1 counters makes this thing a absolutely horrible beast straight out of the box, never mind if you put upgrades in it and put money into it too. But with every commander there's always a sub-commander, and when it comes to the sub-commander of this deck, you get Primo the Unbounded. For X, 2 green and a blue, you get a legendary creature Fractal Wolf that is a mythic, has trample. Primo enters with twice X +1/+1 counters on it. Whenever one or more creatures you control with base power 0 deals combat damage to a player, create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token, put a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the damage dealt, and is a 0/0. This one is cool. I'm not the biggest fan of it. However, I have seen a TikTok where someone plays this and has like 3 enchantments that double +1/+1 counters on it, and this ends up being an absolute beast. Now, there's not that many creatures that have base power 0/0 from the top of my head. I think a few Hydras might, so I say the second ability will be harder to use, but really worth it. Plus, I think there may be a spell that turns creatures base power to 0/0 or something like that. Could be wrong. Let me know if there is. But other than that, I do think it is quite a unique and cool commander, which is what I like when Wizards do that. I am more of a big fan of Simone than this, but I'm not also going to be like, oh no, it's bad. It is really good, it's just not my playstyle. But I also think watching that video made me go, oh, this is better than I thought. Usually when it comes to this, I usually prefer the sub-commander than the commander, so it's quite good to see that I actually prefer the commander. I might make a Simic deck. Let me know if you want me to do a deck tech video if I do that. But now let's go on to the creatures of the deck. And I say this is going to be a lot of +1/+1 counters, big massive X creatures, few Hydras, and then benefits for getting +1/+1 counters or being able to move them around. And then draw, don't forget the draw. When it comes to the creatures of this deck, you get Alwyn Spiralmancer, Kinetic Ooze, Neb the Practical Dean, Yuvimaya Bloomsage, Striding Shortcall, Ingenuous Prodigy, Benevolt Hydra, Beacon Fractal Theorist, Forgotten Ancient, Goldvein Hydra, Guardian Argumenter, Lifeblood Hydra, Primordial Hydra, Steelbane Hydra, Alter Ego, Exclusive Order, the Goose Mother, Hydrid Crisis, Tenazir Quandrix, Simone or Questioning, Hangerback Walker, Stone Coiled Serpent. Now, when it comes to this type of deck, I understand why they do it. They try and make it that it's playable straight off the bat with the commander and the sub-commander. So a lot of these cards you can see lean towards one more than the other, which I do like. I think the way I'm seeing it as someone that would like to build a Simone deck, personally I would like to have more Hydras in it or things that would move +1/+1 counters or get to add them onto other creatures. I would take out a lot of the stuff that works well with the sub-commander and add in a few Simic cards. But I think as a creature-based whole for both of them, I think this is quite good. Straight off the bat, I actually think the creature section is probably going to be the best section for this deck because it is kind of creature heavy, but it's creature ability heavy, if that makes sense. I think the next one will be enchantments. One thing I would love to add in this is the original Golter, because with Simone or the big Hydras, for 2 mana you're getting a 12/12 with Trample, pretty much guaranteed free or for 2 mana most of the time. But if you would like to see me build my own version of this deck, hard focusing on the commander, let me know in the comments down below. So now let's go on to the enchantments of the deck. There isn't many, but they do seem quite powerful overall. When it comes to the enchantments of this deck, you get Lattice Library, Unbound Flourishing, Hardened Scales, Mana Bloom. This is a small package overall, but it's still quite powerful. I think Hardened Scales is a must when it comes to this deck. I do think it is a quite powerful card, especially for how cheap it is. But it also feels that none of the enchantments here go to waste. I do really like them overall. The one thing I do think when it comes to this type of stuff, I would rather have 4 good or really good enchantments than 10 okay ones or bad ones. So now let's go on to the artifacts. Usually the last few decks there's only been 1 or 2 or barely any good ones to even mention, but you get a good few ones here. Like Bass Infiniscope, Fractal Harness, Ozolith the Scattered Spire, Astral Copiconia, Elementalist's Palette. So there is an Ozolith in here, but I think the original one that when things go, it goes onto that and then you're able to move the +1/+1 counters around will make this really good. The artifact section is also really powerful overall, however I do find that it again leads towards playing one or the other. So if you want to play with the sub-commander, you won't be like, oh no, this is bad, but you'll be like, oh, I wish I drew the other enchantment instead, and vice versa if you played the commander of the sub-commander, where I think just the way I play, whatever I'm having as my commander, I like to kind of hard focus on that. But also the cool thing about it is that the fractals and stuff like that do kind of also help with the commander itself. Not by much, like you get blocker or whatever. But I do think there is that other YouTuber that has the like golden pig for the thing. I think the Ocelot, the original one, would be that version for me. So now let's go on to the spells of the deck. This is where the deck's going to rather make it or break it. There's going to be lots of draw spells, X spells. There's a lot potentially they can do with this. My only worry is, and I do think it's going to happen, is that they are going to branch off too wide. So you probably will be drawing the cards you don't need at the time. But again, it is a pre-con. It's not supposed to be absolutely amazing or broken. But other than the creatures, I think majority of the power is going to be in the spells right now, with big, massive like power-up spells or potential board wipes and stuff like that. But when it comes to the spells you get, Nexus Mentality, Commander's Insight, Pull from Tomorrow, Perplexing Test, Stroke of Genius, Zabone's Hypothesis, Skill Guard, Biomass Mutation, Quandrix Command, Expansion Algorithm, Curse of the Swine, Entrancing Melody, Alchemist's Awakening, Open the Way, Primal Might, Oversimplification. Curse of the Swine seems to be, when it comes to these decks, there always seems to be whatever the colour pips are for the deck. There's a handful of cards that they put in majority of the time. Curse of the Swine seems to be the blue version of that. It is overprinted, kind of bad. I usually actually take it out in most of the decks I actually buy, or just get rid of it completely. I think it's an okay spell, but there's way better versions, but I find it funny that it's in pretty much every single pre-con that has a blue pip in it. And overall, these are generically good cards for the deck. There's nothing amazingly broken in my opinion, or amazingly strong. There is a few cards I would personally take out and put in others instead, but I think overall for a pre-con they've done a really good job. And overall I do think for the spell section alone it is quite good for what you're buying, especially since you're not planning on putting a lot of money into this. But then finally let's go on to the lands, which for the last few years has just been terrible, but they've been getting a lot better, and I actually think they are on the right track. So when it comes to this, the lands you get are Turbulent Wilderness, Fable Passage, Alchemist's Refuge, Flooded Grove, Hinterland Harbour, Overflown Basin, Sudden Vendor, Vine Glimmer Snarl. When it comes to lands, I think you are perfectly buying what you get. Between the creatures, between the spells and the lands, and pretty much the enchantments too, what you're paying for the deck and the power level you kind of want it to be, these lands are okay to perfect. Now you could power them up yourself by adding a little bit more money in, which a lot of people do. So I think the lands just as a pre-con kind of status is good. Can do a slight bit better, but to be honest, I'm not complaining. The lands are at a good place right about now. So my final thoughts and opinions on this deck. I think out of all the Strixhaven decks, this is the best when it comes to the card selection. I think it is the most broken, or has the potential to be the most broken. I actually think it is the best deck out of all of them, but Simic is known to be a broken color pairing. When it comes to this deck, I highly recommend looking for the Commander or Sub-Commander, hard focusing on them, taking out all the cards that work really well with the one you're not using, and then putting cards that work better or well with the one you chose. So for example, if you want to play Simone, take out pretty much all the fractal stuff unless it's an XX creature spell or anything like that that works well with it, and then put in cards that work well with her or are better suited for her. Overall, I'm going to give this deck a 9.1 out of 10. I think it is the best one overall. And I didn't wait till last to do it. I done it in order of the Magic website. So again, this was at the bottom, and I do think it is the best one out of all of them. But as always, let me know what you think of this deck and what rating you would give it down in the comments down below. Let me know what cards you think you would put in this deck to make it absolutely broken. While you're down there, remember to like and subscribe and do all that YouTubey stuff we always ask for. And as always, if you like this video, I have last week's Strixhaven deck video here, a playlist of all the Magic the Gathering Is It Worth the stuff I make here, and the subscribe button here, and I will see you all in the next video.